At the previous Ultimate, Bitcoin created an absolute similar structure like we're currently creating, so could history be repeating? That is the question I will be answering on today's video. I will talk about the most important Bitcoin CME future gaps, the most important Bitcoin charts, the Bitcoin bear flag, the liquidation heat map, and many more important charts we need to discuss on today's update video. So without any further ado, this is going to be a super important video. Don't forget to slap that like button back up 700 likes, and let me jump straight away in towards the content. So currently looking at the imminent short term on Bitcoin, we can start to see that Bitcoin is actually starting to create an exactly similar structure like we were doing in 2020, just moments before we were crushing above the all-time high. Because if we're looking, this red line right here has been the previous all-time high on Bitcoin. You can see that, yes, the moment we clearly did broke above it, we of course went exponential. This time around, it is a little bit different, since we already have been breaking above the all-time high a numerous amount of times on Bitcoin, but the structure is very similar. First, we create the bearish divergence. That is exactly what we did. We moved down, we formed that low, we moved up again, we created a horizontal parallel channel, we broke down of the horizontal channel to create a higher low on the market, and after that point, Bitcoin recovered back towards the upside, and afterwards, it went absolutely exponential. So things are looking very similar like they were in 2020. And if history were to be playing out, we are most likely going to see a bounce from off this point, and then the exponential rally is going to start happening on Bitcoin. And actually, if I'm looking right now on the imminent short term, we can actually see that Bitcoin has almost completely filled up the CME futures gap. I do want to be pointing out is that, of course, Bitcoin don't necessarily has to be filling up this gap, because this happened in 2020. We created a Bitcoin CME future gap. We were just about to be filling it up, and afterwards, we eventually did not fill it up, and Bitcoin went on a run to push higher up to new all-time highs, which is, of course, freaking insane. So please don't get fooled by this slight little CME gap where we're currently having on the lower side. But I do want to be pointing out is that approximately 96% to 97% of all the Bitcoin CME gaps, they tend to get filled up here. So yeah, potentially eventually it's going to get filled up. But of course, it is not my main scenario that Bitcoin does need to be going lower before it's going to be playing out this next scenario. So looking also at the imminent short term, Bitcoin is indeed right now as well creating a bear flag pattern after we saw that significant correction towards the downside after consolidating in that sideways horizontal parallel channel. We broke down of the channel, and afterwards Bitcoin has been starting to create a bear flag pattern, which is of course an upper sloping flag. And usually it tends to be breaking down, and the price target of such kind of a flag pattern would be quite significantly towards the lower side, sitting somewhere around $62,000. And I quickly want to be pointing out is that potentially we're not going to be having this exactly historical pattern play out like we had in 2020. And if Bitcoin does really clearly break down and break, most importantly, below this very important support box on the lower side, sitting this time around 64,500, if we break below that level, I think we still could be heading some lower. And if we're going to be seeing lower targets, and if we're going to be breaking below that previous low in the market right here, I think that the next big targets for Bitcoin in terms of support, if we are going to be falling lower, is going to be sitting around $60,000 to $57,000. And I think if we're going to be looking at the maximum drawdown, it's going to be approximately around 20% here in this correction. It is going to be very likely that we're going to be bottoming around $58,000 to $60,000 if we were to be seeing a final correction, because then we will be having a 22% correction. And I think that the maximum in this Bitcoin trend, we are going to be seeing 22% correction. So yes, Bitcoin is creating a bear flag. It is indeed breaking down, but I would only approach the breakdown confirmation if we break below that 64.5k level. But right now in the imminent short term, we can still clearly see that there are millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin short liquidations laying on the top side, sitting around $72,000. We've seen some shorts going out of the market, but still the majority of the traders will be getting liquidated if Bitcoin pushes up to $72,000. And I do believe that the market always follows the liquidity. And yes, at that point, we will most likely see a significant rejection or a significant liquidation, I should say, on the market. Also, yesterday we saw another positive day on the spot Bitcoin ETF. We saw another $130 million worth of Bitcoin flowing in towards the market. Honestly, it has not been so exponential like it was, of course, in the beginning stages in February or March especially, but still, we're seeing positive inflows in the spot Bitcoin ETF, which is, of course, an extremely good development. And yes, once again, we saw that the GBTC outflows were significantly lower than they were last 2 weeks. Only $75 million worth of outflow this week, to be exact. It was only $75 million worth of outflow. And yes, guys, if you are actually interested in trading any of these patterns, the breakdowns, the fractal pattern, or the Bitcoin bear flag pattern, make sure to check out Margex in the link description of today's video, because if you right now sign up an account using that link below and use the code CryptoRover, you will get a 20% bonus on any deposit you're doing, and you can use it to cover 50% of your trading fees. And more importantly, if you right now sign up an account using that link below, you will get a free $50 and after making a $100 deposit on Margex, you'll get an even additional $50, which is of course quite insane. Margex allows you to trade multiple pairs, and yes, it is definitely one of my favorite exchanges. So if you are interested in trading, check it out in the link description of today's video, where you can also claim an insane extra deposit bonus. Going further in towards the content, I think that it is going to be super important to be watching this upper sloping support line on Bitcoin, and if we potentially break below this very important upper sloping support line, we're going to be having some very big problems, because then Bitcoin is going to be seeing a breakdown, and then I will potentially start to lean back towards the scenario that we could still see a 21% correction. And just like I said many times before on the channel, if Bitcoin were to be seeing a 21% correction, I'm going to be opening up $1 million Bitcoin long position, and I will be doing so with my entries somewhere around $58,000 to $60,000. So that is my strategy right now. I think that if Bitcoin is going to come down towards that region, I'm going to be opening up a massive long position, and eventually that would give me, of course, a good accumulation zone to even buy more Bitcoin, because in 15 days from now on, the next Bitcoin halving is here. And yes, once the next Bitcoin halving is here, we are most likely going to be seeing Bitcoin go exponential once again here. So Bitcoin is still consolidating with this lower high and higher low pattern, and once we break out clearly from this region, we are going to be seeing some massive volatility hitting the market. So this was it for me in today's update video. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to slap that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out. Goodbye.